Amen. Christian Ethics, Lecture 9, Biomedical Issues. I think it's part 4, our last one. There's more topics to discuss, but we just got to move on. And this was thrown together pretty quickly by me because I'd been on vacation and I thought I was going to have time. I was amazed. I did not have time, and it wasn't like I was playing video games. You know, fellowshipping with families, serving the Lord, and eating.
And driving.
And driving and flying and being delayed and all. Well, human cloning, so if this doesn't go well together, I'm sorry, I think it will be okay. There might be some repeats because I use multiple sources in this to cover this. Usually I try and blend them in, but and you don't have the red letter edition, so I'll give that to you. Also, we don't have the test today for those that have been studying for it. I don't know if you have. I'm so sorry. I'll try and have it ready for next week. If you plan to take it next week, and that's your goal, please let me know you're doing that in case it slips my mind or whatever. I'll put it on a higher priority. What? What was that? You're
I
planning?
think there's actually another one next week.
Well, yeah. There's going to be another one probably for a while next week. But
Right.
so you're planning to?
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. It needs to be done first then. So, human cloning. Are there humans that have been cloned?
Probably.
I'm seeing a clone here. I got to move it over so I don't see too good. Okay. Don't mind. So, are you a clone? How do you know you're not a clone? Your mom said you're not? How do you know that's your mother? How do you know you... Yeah, a lot of different things. So there has not been a human cloned. Let's tell you that. Whether they're talking about cloning here. So what is MINT? The American Medical Association defined cloning as the production of genetically identical organisms via somatic cell nuclear transfer. What's that? Well, that refers to the process which the nucleus of a somatic cell of an existing organism is transferred into an oocyte, solacine egg, from which the nucleus has been removed. So it's like taking it like a normal egg that we eat, those eggs. You take out the yolk, and you replace it with a different yolk. Well, here we go with that. Let's see if that makes sense. In other words, cloning is the method of producing a baby that has the same genes as its parent. You may say, well, isn't that what's happening with normal kids? No, it's a mixture. So this is like making the same genetic person, not the same person, genetic though. You take an egg and remove its nucleus, which contains the DNA and genes. Then you take the DNA from an adult, so you remove that one out of a real egg. An egg. And then you take the DNA from an adult cell and insert it into the egg, either by fusing the adult cell with an E, meaning without the nucleus egg, or by sophisticated nuclear transfer, so somatic cell nuclear transfer. What do you do for a living? I transfer nucleuses. You then stimulate the reconstructed egg electrically or chemically and try to make it start to divide to become an embryo. Because if you can get that thing going, come on, like jumpstart it, hook it up to a battery and turn on the power, and so, come on, get going. You then use the same process to implant the egg into a surrogate mother that you would using artificial insemination. So once you get that that new nucleus going biochemically, and it goes, now I have a question for you. So human cloning, you don't know much about it, but do you think it's possible? They've done it with sheep and some other things.
Yes.
Okay, so
Cows.
it's been done with animals, so we have to assume it could be done with a human. What's the tricky part in all this though, with the human cloning? Because we're not the same as animals.
We have
So,
souls.
we have a soul. Oh, Sister Human, all right. We have a soul. So this is, and I think we end with that. That thought is, can that happen? Some Christians say yes, because God is a giver, a taker of life, so He could do that. Some say no way. This isn't so much deciding whether it's right or wrong. One issue with this ethics class is it possible? Number two, should we be doing these things, if it is possible? And three, all the ramifications. So, Christian ethics is a huge undertaking. So one must understand that cloning does not produce an exact copy of the person. So it's like, we're all little Danes, we're all Danes, or whoever it would be. No, it's genetically the same though. What cloning does is that it copies the DNA genes of the person and creates a duplicate genetically The person will not be a Xerox copy, though. He or she will grow up in a different environment than the clone, with different experiences and different opportunities. So, yeah, I understand that, but this part here. Genetics does not wholly define a person and a personality. Well, anyways, what I read, and I didn't put it in here, was you have the genetic code, so that's going to be similar, but there's going to be variations. So it's not going to be like the moles in the exact spot on the person and the amount of hair and all that. That can be a little bit different. There's some variations there that can happen as they grow. Initially, they may be exactly the same. My question was, if you put adult gene or DNA in that little egg, does the baby look like an adult when it's born? You would say?
I don't think
I don't think so either, yes. In February 97, when embryologist Ian Wilmot and his colleagues at RADA, whatever, were able to clone a lamb named Dolly, there it was. The world was introduced to a new possibility and it will never be again the same. Before this, cloning was thought to be impossible. But we know it's not. Now, I wanted to do more research, but time didn't allow me. So you do it on your own if you're interested. As frightening as the thought may be, the fact is that scientists around the world already are working on producing a human clone. They're trying to do this, of course. In 2001, that's a while back, in Massachusetts, they announced that they had successfully cloned, look at this, 8 human embryos, some of which grew to the 4 to 6 cell stage before dying. Now, that's not very far. But there was this process of dividing, so at least they got it started. To complicate matters, reports are beginning to surface about other scientific groups that are either working on cloning or that already have attempted it with varying degrees of success. So if they're getting more and more successful, hi sister,
Hi.
what can happen? What's another danger is we didn't talk about this, soulless human animals. They're of the human type, but they're without a soul. And some have said that this is what's going to happen, and that's that 200 million man army. They're these just soulless animal-type humans. They're not robots, but they're just without a... So you say, that's impossible. Well, we think it is, but is it? Can you support it with the Scripture? Maybe you can. So, there are a great number of possible medical benefits and disadvantages to cloning and its technology. Let's look at some positives. So this is what they're trying to do, is learn how to renew activity of damaged cells by growing new cells and replacing them. And this kind of goes into stem cell research. There's similarities in that. And what's called nanotechnology, which I read about. It started blowing my mind down to something that's 500 atoms wide. So you can't even see it with a microscope, even the best microscopes. It's very small. These little entities, whatever you want to call them, can be put in. They call them robots or bots. And they can go find the damaged cell or cells and take care of them. They're just programmed to go do that. Only those cells they'll take care of. I mean, that would be great. You got cancer growing in you, however you program it, go, and they take care of them. I am from Arzon. That's scary, but yeah, how far can it go? But it'd be neat to, if you had cancer, to have it taken care of with this one little injection of these little bots. You can get donors for kidneys, but then you're creating a human just for its organs. What do you do with the person?
That's wrong.
But maybe with this kidney, so they have one kidney, the other kidney's there. So you say it's wrong, but then if the person still stays alive, maybe it's not wrong. Yeah, it'd be wrong if then you kill them after that, or kill them for their organs. Yeah. Sterile couples will be able to have offspring that will have their mother or father's genetic pattern. So, I mean, if you've been barren, can't have children, then you have the opportunity of that. Well, you can adopt, but to have your own, your own. There's something there. Harms and disadvantages. This compromised individualities. What kind of person or thing will this be? Genetic variation, like Hitler. Remember, only wanted blonde, blue-eyed, 6 foot or 6 foot taller males. I don't know about the females. Oh, forget them, just males.
And he wasn't.
No, he was a little short,
He was Jewish.
black-haired, brown-eyed Jewish guy, yeah. Black market of fetuses may arise from desirable donors that will want to clone themselves like famous stars. You can have as your own child a little
Elvis Presley.
Elvis Presley doll. Arnold, yeah, it can be Arnold or ladies. So she's so pretty. So in cloning Dolly, the sheep, 277 eggs were used. 30 of those started to divide, 9 induced pregnancy, and only 1 survived to term. So out of 277 living sheep beings, embryos, whatever you want to call them, only 1 made it. So in humans, look at the risk there. Let's think if it's the same ratio. 277 actual living beings, babies, to get 1. If that's what they start off with doing. So that's not right. Right there, I'd say don't do it. But are they actually killing them? No, it's different. It's just they're not making it because it's so risky. Clones may be treated as second-class citizens. Oh, you're a clone? Clones to the back of the line at the airport. They'll be going, okay, those with first class, and they got the Alaska Air Miles, and Alaska. The last group will be clones. Poor people, clone. Okay, thou shalt not clone. One of the main goals of the government is to protect human life. Some people want the government to regulate cloning and not allow it. Michigan's government believes this and became the first government to place a ban on cloning. Michigan State Senator Mr. Bennett said, this legislation boils down to one thing, prohibiting the creation of human life for scientific research. So that's good. Yeah, that's not good because you're just going to do research on these clones. Human cloning is wrong. It will be 5 years from now and it'll be wrong 100 years from now. It's just wrong. Governor Engler said, producing clones for research or to use their parts is unethical. It would be against the code of ethics of a doctor to harm a clone, like to use it for an organ transplant. Because it wasn't, what happens if the clone doesn't want that? The clone would be a human being and deserve all the rights and privileges that a non-cloned human has. We've got male to female transgender, we've got female to male transgender, clones and male to female clone all these different opportunities here. A clone should not be a second-class citizen, but they might be considered as such. Oh, you're a clone. The American Medical Association holds 4 points of reason why cloning should not take place. AMA, against it. There are unknown physical harms introduced by cloning. Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. Unknown psychosocial harms. Yeah. Oh, you're a clone. Little 5-year-olds on the playground. Oh, a clone! He's a clone! Impacts on familial and societal relations, kind of the same thing. Potential effects on the human gene pool. Now, there's something there.
Yeah, there you go.
We all start, if you kept cloning the same type, you would have only this type. But evolution,
But once the
okay, that's on eugenics, but evolution kind of goes that way, because Hitler wanted to, he didn't know about cloning, but he wanted this master race, and that's what eugenics does. That's our last one. Okay, well, there's some thought for you. Oh, I didn't get to this point. All right, last part here. Another question must be asked as well. Would a human clone have a soul? Who says yes? Raise your hand if you say, a human clone, I think, probably would have a soul.
No.
Okay. Who says it probably would not have a soul? Who says, I really don't know?
I don't know.
Okay. So, at least we're not dogmatic now. I'm dogmatic that I don't know. Much of the debate occurring today, especially in religious circles, centers on this question. In addressing what seemed at the time the unlikely possibility of the cloning of a human, Dwayne Gish, Clifford Wilson inquired, would a clone be truly human? The answer is that indeed he would be human, for its life came from human life, even though in a manner different than is usually the case. So, is it human? It's of the human type or species. In addition, they noted the cloned human is already alive. They would be responsible to God for their actions, needing to preserve his own body against sickness, and to see that he's properly fed, and all the rest of the stuff humans do. Each clone would have its own individual responsibility, and they say its own soul. He says, we concur with such an assessment. Oh, that's what Apologetic Express said. So they said they would have a soul. Jane, yes?
Well, I would think it would, because I just keep thinking about identical twins, which start out and are multi-celled before they split and become 2 different people, each of which have a soul.
Yes. And it might just be that, of course, God knows everything, but when that happens, whether it's human clone and grown in a laboratory setting, whatever, petri dish, and it's going to become a human, or is, once that, God knows when it's going to be, then he just soul. It's no problem for him to do that. He doesn't have a certain number of souls, and he can only give them out at certain times.
Right, because otherwise, identical twins become really problematic.
Right. Also, just look at the people out there fornicating. No, don't look at them, but God's will is that they wait till marriage, but if they produce a baby, then it happens. And they're going to have that offspring's going to immediately have a soul. Whether it's God's will for them to, of course it's never His will that they fornicate, but it happened. Or a rape or something like that occurs. If it happens, they get a soul. All right, going on. James 2:26, James made this observation: the body apart from the spirit is dead. The point, of course, is that when the spirit departs the body, death results. Sorry for the noise. But there's an obvious and important corollary. If the body is alive, it must be the case that the spirit is present. A cloned human would indeed possess a soul. Okay, isn't this true? When a person dies, when they're officially dead, their soul or spirit leaves. That's the death part. I mean, there's brain dead and all this other parts about being biochemically dead, but they are not dead in God's eyes until spirit leaves. Then they're dead. Spirit's left the body. There's been separation, death. Okay. The cloned human would indeed possess a soul, they say. The unusual manner of the clone's birth would not alter that fact. Only God, however, can instill a soul. He giveth life and breath to all things. All right. That was easy. We're running out of time here. Cryonics. It's not cryogenics, though. That's a different thing. Cryonics is the practice of cryopreserving humans or animals that can no longer be sustained by contemporary medicine until resuscitation may be possible in the future. So you can freeze this person, but they got to be dead already. The largest current practitioners are two organizations. Alcor Life Extension. They got 74 frozen patients. And one in Clinton Township, Michigan, where it's near where I used to live, they got 75. They're one in the head. Now remember, they're not people that are alive and they just okay, go into this, and they freeze them. You kill them. So they're not doing that. It's already dead people that have agreed. Freeze dry me. And then thaw me out when the technology gets better and maybe they had some type of cancer that caused them to die, and then they have the solution to that problem.
Well, I just was thinking about this when, at the tail end of the last conversation, I was thinking about moving right on into this one, because this is a dead person whose soul has left, and now they want to bring them back to life.
Right.
So what are they?
Yes. First of all, can they bring anyone back to life? No, they haven't yet.
No.
So this is just up in the air. It's not like a clone where it might be possible. The process is not currently reversible. Cryonics can only be performed on humans after clinical death. They got to have legal determination. The rationale for cryonics is that the process may be reversible in the future if performed soon enough, and that cryopreserved people may not really be dead by standards of future medicine. They're just kind of in this altered state. Cryonics is viewed with skepticism. However, there is a high representation inside, blah, blah, blah. There's nanomedicine, that's what I talked about earlier, these little tiny things. Some scientists believe that future medicine will enable molecular level repair and regeneration. So just think 1,000 years from now, if they kept them like this, what they might know in 1,000 years. Where they have these things that, we just give them this little injection, and it goes and takes care of anything that's abnormal in the body in 5 minutes. We say, well, that can't be possible. Well, it could be. And so they thaw this person and have to inject them with all this solution, because that's a cellular fluid. That's the problem. The cellular fluid has to be right. So you freeze cells; they don't thaw real nicely. Just like if you freeze something and then you thaw it, and doesn't taste quite the same, does it? Central premise of cryonics is that memory, personality, and identity are stored in the structure and chemistry of the brain. While this view is widely accepted in medicine, and brain activity is known to stop and later resume under certain conditions, it is not generally accepted that current methods preserve the brain well enough to permit revival in the future. So they're thinking about your brain might still be able to start functioning okay. Your body might have, the heart's not pumping, but the brain can get started, and then they go fix this other stuff. To its detractors, the justification for the actual practice of cryonics is unclear. Currently, cells, tissues, blood vessels, and some small animal organs can be reversibly cryopreserved. So they've done this with some cells and tissues. They freezed them and then brought them back to life. Not the being, though. Some frogs can survive for a few months in a partially frozen state, a few degrees below freezing. But that's not really cryopreservation. Cryonics advocates counter that demonstrable reversible preservation is not necessary. Okay, so they're just talking about the goal is the preservation of basic brain information that encodes memory and personal identity. All right, the most famous person that was cryopreserved was Ted Williams, famous baseball star back in the 70s. Not many people have done it. They've only had like 150 people cryopreserved. So you would think the person's already dead, so you would think that if it was hopeful that it was going to work, that a lot of people would do this for their loved ones.
Really,
That's
really.
costs a lot of money. Yeah, because they got to keep them in a spot, keep them under certain conditions. It's got to cost a lot of money.
And you've got family that's going to do that for you for 200 years?
Well, I don't know.
Or 300 years?
They got those meat freezers. They just dump the body in there and shut it. You just can't let it like lose electricity over. But maybe Grandpa will come back to life then. Ethical and theological opinions of cryonics tend to pivot on the issue of whether cryonics is regarded as internment, whether it's burying them, or is it medicine? All right. Resuscitation may be deemed impossible by those with religious beliefs because the soul is gone. So that's the issue. Is the soul gone? You can try and resuscitate them all you want. There's no soul, there's no life. Only God can resurrect the dead. So, you can do that, but He's probably not going to do it. If it's just internment, meaning there's no chance of them living again, it's an awful expensive way to just intern the body, or interm, I guess it is. Burying. We're just going to freeze them. If cryonics is regarded as medicine, with legal death as a mere enabling mechanism, so cryonics is just basically a long-term coma with uncertain prognosis. So cryonics, what I would say on this is, once the soul leaves, I don't think it's coming back. So that is not going to be possible. Though human cloning, that's a different story. And lastly, eugenics. All right, what is this? The ultimate goal of eugenics was to create a superior race of humans. Many adherents believed in evolution by natural selection, but that natural selection was moving too slowly in favoring the best and limiting the worst. So they want, how it works, where the strongest survive. But evolution, you got to wait 1 million years for something to take place. So let's speed it up. They also believed that charity in the form of taking care of the poor and sick was prohibiting natural selection from working properly. Well, quit trying to help the weak ones. Let them die, they're thinking. Over 30 states enacted sterilization laws, and between 60,000 and 70,000 people were forcibly sterilized between 1900 and 1970.
All the way up to 1970.
Yeah.
That was going on.
This is other countries, though, I think.
No, that was the United States.
United States, really?
All the way up to
Yikes.
1970.
1927, see, in the early 1900s was when eugenics was really big, from my reading. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of forced sterilization of Carrie Buck, with Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes stating, "It is better for all the world if instead of waiting to execute degenerate offspring for crime, society can prevent those who are manifestly unfit from continuing their kinds. 3 generations of imbeciles are enough," he said. I understand just human logic in that, but then you've got, this is a human being, it's precious. Who gives you the right to say you can't have offspring? But you might say, these people should not, this person who's, say, a raving lunatic, and the woman here is a raving lunatic, they should not mate. Maybe this person shouldn't mate at all with anyone. But where do you draw the line at? James Watson, co-discoverer of the structure of DNA, stated in 2003, "If you are really stupid, I would call that a disease." This is like a brilliant person. The lower 10% who really have difficulty, even in elementary school, what's the cause of it? A lot of people would like to say, well, poverty and things like that. It probably isn't. So I'd like to get rid of that to help lower the 10%. Not quite sure all he's saying there, but stupid people should just not be allowed to have kids. Oh. Going on. Eugenics is the application of Darwinism to produce a superior race by the state controlling human reproduction. Look at China. How does it work there? What, 1 child per family? Mm-hmm. And oftentimes if they find out it's a female, what do?
Abortion.
An abortion. Because they want that male, I guess. Those judged more fit are coerced or bribed to produce more children, and those judged less fit are coerced or bribed to produce fewer children, or they have forced sterilization. According to a historian at the American Ethics, blah, 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 the goal of eugenics was to control evolution from the blind, slow process of nature to the intelligent, deliberate, and purposeful guidance of evolution by intelligent human. It's almost like they become the gods of evolution. They're controlling it all. The most well-known example of the application of this policy was Nazi Germany, but it was also applied in the United States. The United States passed several laws requiring the sterilization of certain people. We read about that. These laws also restricted the immigration of inferior races, such as Jews, in the United States. We had laws like that back then. As a result, many Jews perished in the Holocaust because we wouldn't let them in. Some even arrived at our shores only to be sent back to Germany. Eugenics theory relied heavily on not only Darwinism, but also Darwin's tree of life view, with its extensive system of branches representing the ever-increasing complexity of Earth's many species. Eugenics was a means to facilitate the further growth of this tree, specifically the advancement and evolution of the human race, or as eugenicists expressed it, the betterment of mankind. I might read everything else, I might not. We'll see. Eugenics is a social movement that's still out there. I mean, there's a lot of people that are for this. One of the most famous ones is Ted Turner. He's like for population zero, meaning zero growth in population, just like halt it. Do everything you can get to because we have 200,000 plus a day net increase, so he wanted it zero. And he was all for forced sterilization. Ted Turner's an influential fellow. Married to Jane Fonda. And it was originally developed by some guy, a cousin of Charles Darwin. Eugenics was practiced openly in early decades of the 20th century in many countries, including the U.S. After World War II, eugenics by that name fell into disfavor when the Nazi atrocities came. Eugenicists advocate genetic screening, birth, so we do that today. Birth control, that goes on today. Segregation, that used to go on. I'm not sure what transhumanism is. Euthanasia, yeah. Compulsory sterilization, that might be going on. Forced pregnancies, I don't understand that one really. I guess I can figure it out. But and abortion, well, that's going on. Margaret Sanger was the founder of Planned Parenthood. Sanger was also a proponent of eugenics, who railed against the reckless breeding of the unfit. In her book, Woman and the New Race, she wrote, "The most merciful thing that a large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it." Talking about the human family here, okay? She desired to breed a race of human thoroughbreds and would rather a society produce 1,000 thoroughbreds than 1,000,000 runts. I think she's the runt.
I assume she figured she was a thoroughbred.
Yeah. From its founding, Planned Parenthood has been involved with eugenics. In 1932, the organization received the endorsement of America. To this day, Planned Parenthood is targeting those whom Sanger and other eugenicists would call unfit. They stated that their core clients are young women, low-income women, and women of color. Their clients? I'm not sure what that means. People that support them or people that they're planning to get rid of?
People that they
advise.
Yeah.
Give it. Oh, okay. So not to reproduce?
People that actually use their services for
Planned-
abortion or
Yeah.
or
Well, I believe that, Planned Parenthood.
Right.
Birth
Okay.
control.
Right.
Not eugenics, but it's a form of eugenics, though. Planned Parenthood, yeah. Controlling.
Certainly if that's who you go out and target too.
Yeah. Interesting. Should think about that. Wow. The Bible does not specifically mention eugenics, but the idea behind eugenics, that man can better himself by ridding the world of undesirable people, is not biblical. God told mankind, be fruitful and multiply. No exception to that command is given in Scripture. In fact, King Solomon wrote that children are an heritage of the Lord, and fruit of the womb is His reward. God gives us life and numbers our days. He determines when we die, or at least He's in charge of that. For social engineers to usurp God's authority in order to create a self-defined master race, they wrote here, it's evil. English theologian Chesterton wrote way back in 1922, there is no reason in eugenics, but there's plenty of motive. So it's not reasonable, but there's a motive. And it's not just to keep population down. Well, there's that motive, but that's not the main thing. It's to get rid of undesirables. People that are a drain on the economy or just don't produce much for the the government. And if you're thinking totally in an evolutionary view, where survival of the fittest, and we all die and just don't exist anymore, we're all animals, yeah, get rid of the things that are draining the system. It's inefficient. At least don't let them breed. But it's not supported with Scripture. Lastly, eugenics is a meritless and immoral social engineering experiment with dubious chances for success. It is a slippery slope. They're trying to create their own utopia on earth. Through abortion and euthanasia, eugenics is just basically murder. This isn't King James, but when the daylight is gone, the murderer rises up, kills the poor and needy, and then the night steals forth like a thief. This is the role of the eugenicist. Killing the poor and needy and those undesirables, they're unworthy. Preventing a poor quality of life by taking life. They say, well, you got a poor quality of life for a potential one, well, let's take your life. Denying men's liberty and playing God. So eugenics is wrong. Cryonics is, I don't think, possible. It's just a waste of time and money. Human cloning? We don't know. Father in heaven, help us. These issues are very hard to understand, at least by me. But help us to at least think about it and be prepared for the future. It's going to get worse and worse. Well, thank you for this time, Lord, and help us to just kind of soak it all in and be better servants for you because of it. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you all.